We are especially excited because this is the final event of our 2024 season, which also happens to be the end of our 10th year of the Interlude. So, thank you for being here to celebrate and close that out with us. For those of you who are new and maybe don't know us, I'm Courtney.
I'm Rachel.
We are your fearless co-founders. Rachel is our executive director. And all of you are what make the Interlude and magical. So let's do a few announcements. Yeah.
Announcements are cool. We just got back from 4 days and 3 nights at Cacapen Resort in West Virginia for our writing retreat. It was a beautiful, magical time. Is anybody here from the writing retreat? Yes, it was wonderful. About 25 of us went out to the mountains and wrote together, and it was beautiful. And if that sounds amazing to you, applications will open for our April retreat on January 1st. The other thing that will open on January 1st is applications for our Authors Corner program. And for anybody who doesn't know, our Authors Corner program is a publicity campaign for local authors who've recently published with a small to medium-sized press. And we feature them across all of our programming and in collaborations with other local organizations. And we basically treat them like the rock star that they are for about a month. And so that's right, about a month to be a rock star. So if you're interested in that, if you have a book that's coming out anywhere from September of this year to September of next year, you are eligible to apply, and those applications also open on January 1st. And as Courtney mentioned, we are going on a hiatus in December. So those announcements are super important. It's the last reminder you're getting. So if you haven't already, sign up for our newsletter on our website, and we will send another reminder that way.
You can also, of course, find us on the socials. We have some wonderful interns working with us today. Emma and Hope, stand up and wave.
Where are the interns? Yay! And Abby,
of course,
she's chewing right now, so she's not going to say that, but she's great.
Makes the magic happen as well. But yeah, so you can still follow along while we are on physical hiatus. But do keep yourselves abreast of exciting happenings to come for next season. I think we'll carry on. We are so thrilled to, again, for this last of 2024, welcome our featured reader this evening. A.B. Spellman is here in front of me, is the acclaimed American poet, music critic, and arts administrator. He's widely recognized as a leading figure in the Black arts movement of the 60s and 70s, a cultural and literary movement that emphasized Black identity, pride, and artistic expression. Spellman's literary career took flight in 1965 with his debut poetry collection, The Beautiful Days, which introduced his distinctive voice, blending elements of jazz, blues, and African oral traditions. In 1966, just a year later, 4 Lives in the Bebop Business established Spellman as a respected music critic and scholar. Spellman held senior positions at the National Endowment of the Arts for 30 years, and with lasting impact on arts funding for inner cities and rural and tribal communities, which we know is all so very, very needed. In addition to poems from Beautiful Days and Things I Must Have Known, this book contains a trove of new and uncollected poems, confirming Spellman's continued centrality to contemporary American literature. And A.B. has books here for sale as well, which he could tell you more about. But thank you so much for being here in our community.
Good people, I thank you good people for coming out and supporting poetry. The best people in the world read poetry. I think there are probably none in the Republican Party now who do. And I think agencies like the National Endowment for the Arts are very much under threat with Elon Musk, of all the poetry haters, I'm sure, who are in charge of getting rid of such folk. So there is that. in the world, and it won't leave us right now. Yes, I'm having my late 80s are really swinging. I'm 89 years old now. And I won a Grammy this year. The CD also is back there with the for sale. And actually we're performing it at the Kennedy Center. It's a piece based on my poetry. The composer Jeff Scott wrote a gorgeous piece for Wind Quintet. That's the Imani Winds. My daughter's the oboist in that. The Harlem Quartet and the Alex Brown Jazz Trio. It's a wonderful piece. So at the Kennedy Center Thursday night. I'm sure it's not all sold out. Okay, there it is. All right, a couple of poems. I'll start with a poem called Groovin' Low. The jazz lovers in the room will recognize this as a play on a Dizzy Gillespie composition called Groovin' High, an old bebop tune. And whatever Dizzy was talking about with Groovin' High, I'm talking about getting older. Okay. The weird words in the second stanza are drum patterns. I did not make them up. My swing is more mellow these days. Not the hard rock drive I used to roll, but more of a cool foxtrot. My eyes still close when the rhythm locks. I've learned to boogie with my feet on the floor. I'm still grooving, still moving, still falling in love. I bop to the bass line now. The trap set, paradiddles, radical cues, and flams that used to spin me in place still set me off. But I bop to the bass line now. I enter the tune from the bottom up and let trumpet and sax wheel above me. So, don't look for me in the treble. Don't look for me in the fly staccato splatter of the hot young horn, no. You'll find me in the nuance, hanging out in inflection and slur. I'm the one executing the half-bent dip and the slow, slow drag with a smug little smile and a really cool shade. All right, I think I'll do a poem there's a suite of poems in this book called a suite of poems on Vincent van Gogh, everybody's favorite artist. Van Gogh, as you know, was a very tortured man, and he died of, well, he had syphilis and gonorrhea all in his system for like 40 years, and it finally wore him down. And so this poem is in tribute to him. Okay, I'm going to read Van Gogh in Arles. He went to Arles to try to set up an artist colony, and his brother, the art dealer Theo, I'm sure you all know this, was made good money selling impressionists before anybody else did. And he did recruit Paul Gauguin to go down and hang out with Van Gogh down there. And they didn't get along at all. Nobody got along with Van Gogh. But anyway, there was a lot of correspondence between Van Gogh and his brother Theo, the art dealer. Dear Theo, locked away, dear Theo, locked away, I have found my freedom. In this asylum, I am safe from the Arlesians who threw stones and horse pies at me as I sketched them on the streets. Paul is gone. He was supposed to deepen my eye, lengthen my view, give reach to my name. Instead, Gauguin has taught me that lunatics are better company than artists. They know more, see deeper, and never turn away. if they would only learn a softer midnight scream. Did he ever claim the half year that I left for him with the pimp at the brothel door? At last I have a community that lives with me in the unexalted state of alone, from which I paint and write to you. The air here is thick but clear. The gardens are true in their wildness and filled with sympathetically gnarled forms to draw. My mind now knows that it is lost, and so my sight is free to catch the abstract, twisted motion of things and beings at risk. I send to you now the roots, which hold those shapes and cypresses whose green leaf flames are like the poplars I shipped before. Theo, this rich night sky combusts all over. The crescent moon goes yellow to teal to azure with the planets and the clouds that swirl their ballet for me. Dear brother, you well know my love for women is more dense than Renoir's, for I do not see them as lit from within to some milky purity that never catches dirt. Their beauty is lustworthy. Hard life cuts as many furrows in their faces as it does in mine. Some days I think the impression is wrong. The world is more than placid light. I tell you that I tried pointillism, but the colors of the day do not blend harmoniously or decorate each other into glorious songs of sight as Surah preaches. They wrestle and thrash, wage war and mate with a cacophony I swear I can almost hear. Still, Gauguin wants a constant image that neither starts nor finishes. Manet wants no texture to his surface to corrupt the feather touch that spreads his sun upon the pond. Degas breathes Vermeer and his glassine canvas. Oh, I know how stratified his surface is, played glazed wet on dry at 6 levels. But damn it, Gar, show us what royals do. Screen the image, man. They all want the anonymous brush, but there's a burning truth to my impasto, for it lets my pilgrim work his desperate hand into the stroke. Clear, pristine light is blindness, Theo. The flames are all. That's what the others missed. One more. This is called After Vallejo, after the great Cesar Vallejo. Peruvian poet, died I think about 1919, I think, around there. Surrealist. Anything to tell you about this day? Well, I can't give you all the glosses here because there are too many. All right. After Vallejo. I will die in Havana in a hurricane. It will be morning. I'll be facing southwest, away from the Gulf, away from the storm, away from home, looking toward the virid hills of Matanzas where the Orisha rides, lifted by congueros in masks of iron, bongoceros in masks of water, timbaleros in masks of fire, by all the clave that binds the rhythms of this world. I'll be writing when I go, revising another hopeful survey of my life. I will die of nothing that I did, but of all that I did not do. I promised myself a better self than I could make, and I will not forgive. You will be there, complaining that I never saved you, that I left you where you live, stranded in your own green dream. When you come for me, come singing, no dirge, but scat my eulogy in bebop code. Sing that I died among gods, but lived with no God and did not suffer for it. Find one true poem that I made and sing it to my shade as it fades into the wind. Sing it presto, in 4/4 time. in the universal ghetto key of B flat. I will die in Havana in rhythm. Tumbayo, Montuno, Guaguanco, dead strata rhythm pulsing me away. And the mother of waters will say to the saint of crossroads, well damn, he danced his way out after all.
Thank you, AB. That was awesome. All right, so we're gonna have 3 readers before our intermission. Reminder to readers to please stick to your 5-minute limit out of courtesy for your fellow readers and so that you don't get Courtney coughing awkwardly in the back until everybody's awkward and they stop listening to you anyway. All right, and please just get your mouth uncomfortably close to the mic for the people in the back. All right, kicking us off in fiction, Nathan Grimmer.
All right, hello. For anyone who's read the bio in the pamphlet or is looking at whatever the hell is on my shirt, I am going to be reading from a horror novel, but not a horror scene. So for anyone else who's disturbed in here, I'm sorry to disappoint. For everyone else, you're spared, all right? So the book is about a woman in her early 20s who is driving when her father is in the passenger seat, gets into an accident, dies from the injuries. Now she has sort of grief and guilt kind of working together to revise that complicated relationship. And of course, she also believes that she's being haunted by him. So this is a journal entry she writes after her therapist assigns a topic of one word, which is love. So here we go. There was a Spanish writer, Latin I think. I don't remember who he was. I don't remember what he wrote. But there was something he said. And some statements just stick with you even when the faces that made them come up blank. This writer, he said he and Dostoevsky were from the same country, even with the latter being Russian. This writer said they were brothers. Brothers not bound by blood or geography, but by a sort of brain link, a spiritual space mapped upon the same thickets of thought, and beset by the same philosophical seas. That's to say, they were more knit than kin. This writer, he believed he and Dostoevsky worked at the same page. I feel this way about Carson and the Colors, that we're on the same page, that is, not that we share it in terms of wisdom or eloquence. That one writer was probably arrogant for suggesting such equal footing with Dostoevsky. The fact I don't remember who he was makes me all the more certain in that belief. So McCullers, she was a white woman from the Deep South who published her claim to fame, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, in 1940. She wrote in a time before the March on Washington, yet proposed precisely that in this very book, and spoke with a drawl that makes me throw my hands up in defeat when I return to the rare recording, so hardly can I decipher it. I, a black woman of nearly the same age as she was then, come from a far different background. The gulf between us all pronounced all the more by time's passing and the progression of American society. Yet had we known each other, we would have been members of the same club, to borrow her simple but spellbinding words. And this club would live with her as she was, pulled from her time, and me as I am, pulled from mine, with no cultural adjustments measured and meted out to ensure a like-minded bond. No, the bond exists as it is. Despite our differences, I see us as sisters all the same, traversing the same thickets of thought, sailing the same philosophical seas, and burdened by the same insurmountable mountains that occupy our thoughts and gazes, their peaks growing more distant with each second we spend trying to scale them. That is to say, society has improved in some ways while lagging behind in others. These failings are all the more apparent when contrasted to the leaps and bounds forward we have made. I'm not talking about our shared womanhood, though that no doubt played a substantial part in shaping who she was, as does it mold me in ways I can't entirely see. And I don't allude to the bisexual tones coloring her work either. As I write this, my mind most clearly jumps to loneliness. It's certainly the main thing true, but it's more than that. Loneliness is too simple, too small a word to describe the trance that comes over me at the mere thought of her words. It's the way she perceived the world, the dark hues on certain faces invisible to most, the tortured cries broadcast on frequencies not heard by normal human ears, and the swallowed tears, the likes of which we might think we know but never taste. The compassion, then, the anguish felt, not only for herself, drawn from her own isolation, but for the others, the outcasts, the misfits, the poor, the disabled, the downtrodden, those on the fringe. And yes, even those likely to be deemed normal, especially them, because it's within their hearts that the anguish is least expected, least tolerated, and least forgiven. She understood the divide between us all, and her heart cried out for it. I so wish that I could have talked to her. Maybe then we could have bridged the gap between ourselves and others, if only through the two of us. But then there's the child in me speaking, for the very wish goes against what her work seemed to say. Yeah, I think that same child lurked within her when she wrote in her 20s, her 30s, her 40s, and her 50s. I think beneath every bitter sentence, every tragic birth and death drawn, every character who failed to connect, every love lost, every love never gained, every member of no club, stepped on or ignored, I think that beneath it all the child watched with somber but unwavering eyes. So I would like to hope, though I've never had less reason to do so, and time keeps ticking on. Thank you.
Next in nonfiction, Jessica Piscitelli Robinson.
Great pronunciation. Good job. Hi guys. It's nice to be here. Oh, it's so cool up here. You should all come up and read. It's much cooler up here. I'm going to read from my new memoir and stories, but I'm not going to read the whole thing. Don't worry. So this is from chapter 18 called There's Always One. Yeah, you know. About 15 years ago, I started working with construction companies. They've become regular clients. When a new building is nearing completion, they hire me to videotape training on the equipment in that building. The trainings go on for 2 to 6 months, so I end up getting a lot of long-term work from construction companies. When I started working with them, I was the only woman around. I didn't see any other women anywhere on the job. But over the years, that has started to change. Last year, I got hired by a new client, and Sarah was the project manager on the site. On the first day, I went to meet Sarah and the guys, because everyone else there was, of course, a guy. When I arrived on the job site, I had my hard hat on, I had my vest on, I had my video camera set up and ready to go. I said hi to Sarah and to everyone else. There were about 12 guys there, and the introductions went smoothly until I got to the last guy. He said, what is that, 4K? He was talking about my camera because it's a high resolution camera. It was the way he said it though. I could tell he was going to be trouble. So I deflected with humor, which is what I do. I said, yeah, but I don't shoot these trainings in 4K because no one wants to see you guys close up. Everyone laughed and I thought, all right, good, we moved on. But no, he kept going. He said, can I borrow it? I said, no, I need it for work, just trying to shut him down. But he kept going and added, because you know, the wife and me can make some good videos with that, you know, in the bedroom. Why? Why did he have to go there? I didn't know what to do, and lacking any other good ideas, I just turned my back on him. And when I did, I locked eyes on Sarah.
And she rolled her eyes and said, "There is always one." After college, I worked in the feature film industry in New York, and after a few years of that, I decided I'd go work for a corporate video production company. I sent out my resume to hundreds of video production companies in the tri-state area, and then I waited. I didn't hear from anyone for months. Finally, this guy Bob called me up and invited me to come work for him for a trial period. I needed the money, so I said sure. I showed up on Monday to Bob's place. Bob worked out of his home in New Jersey. He lived on the 3rd floor, the 2nd floor was the editing suite, and the 1st floor was the reception area and the kitchen. Bob was about 65 years old, retired military. The editor was about 35, also retired military. The only other person who worked there was the receptionist, who was an older woman. After Bob gave me the grand tour, he led me into his office to give me my orientation. The first thing he said to me was, "You know, we all make the coffee around here. If I ask you to make the coffee, it's not because you're a woman." All right, well, I've made a lot of coffee, it's fine. Bob continued, "Sometimes you are gonna have to answer the phone. Now let me see you do it." I don't know if it was the fact that he made me pretend to answer the phone over and over and over again, or the fact that he gave me directions like louder, smile when you answer the phone. No, I want to see you smile. Or that he watched me so closely as I did it. The whole experience felt like I was on the casting couch. When that was done, I was free to go about my day, which involved mostly running errands, printing labels, and labeling VHS tapes. That's how the rest of the week went. Every day I did menial tasks, and every day I was called into Bob's office for uncomfortable conversations. One day he shared with me that he and the editor did drugs. Another day he told me that this one time for Halloween, him and the editor dressed up like women. I didn't react, partly because I didn't want to give him the satisfaction, and partly because I had just been living in Greenwich Village. On Friday of that, thank you for those for On Friday of that first week, Bob took me to a room I'd never been in on the 2nd floor. It was an editing suite. Well, it was a closet, but there was an editing system of a sort in there. The deck was really old though, and totally unfamiliar to me. Bob said, "Can you use this?" I said, "Well, I can try." Then he sat me down in front of a monitor and sat next to me. It was such a small room, our knees were touching. He told me he wanted me to edit his vacation footage. Then he watched me while I watched the monitor. He told me what I was seeing. He'd gone on vacation recently in Sweden, and this footage was from an outdoor art exhibition about control. What I was seeing was a naked guy walking another naked guy on a dog leash. Bob watched me for a reaction that I refused to give him, and I thought, yeah, this is about control. Okay, next in poetry, Jona Colson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name is Jona Colson. I'm co-president of the Washington Writers Publishing House, which is right here. A little sponsor this evening. So you have the book that I'm going to be reading from called Agwash, which is a translation. I'm just going to read two short poems. And we also have Len Kruger's book. Len, stand up, say hello, say hello. Who is also say hello. And my wonderful co-president, Caroline Bach, who I actually kind of just take her lead on whatever she wants to do. But anyway, we're celebrating 50 years. We have an anthology coming out. Speak about more in a moment. But my latest book is a translation of Miguel Avero, who is a Uruguayan poet. And Uruguay is the smallest speaking Spanish country in South America. And one of the energies of this book is to have people read more literature from Uruguay. Because it's a very small, again, it's the smallest speaking Spanish country. It has a wonderful, wonderful literary repertoire, reputation, and it's so wonderful to be able to get it into translation into the hand of other readers. So the best way I can do that, as I said, I'm going to read 2 poems, and I would really love you to hear Miguel's voice. Miguel is alive and well in Montevideo, Uruguay, but I have a recording of his, which I hope will work. So this first poem is called Aislado in Spanish. Any Spanish speakers here this evening? Spanish speakers? Spanish? A few? Okay, that's good. Uruguay has a wonderful accent. It's very similar to the Argentine, but don't tell them I said that because they don't want to know. But hopefully we can hear Miguel read the poem and then I will read my translation. So let's see, forgive my technical abilities, but I think this should work.
Comparto lectura del poema Hallazgo. Encontré un hombre que recitaba un poema, de un poemario inconcluso su mejor poema, y vi que mientras lo recitaba lo componía, y sus palabras se escribían en mi cerebro y salían de mi boca y de todos mis gestos, y mi voz resonaba en ese pequeño mundo solitario, donde yacía solo mi propio cuerpo, mi sola mente y mi poema, que hablaba sobre un hombre que encontraba a otro, que era el mismo, recitando de su inconcluso poemario su mejor poema.
Even if you don't understand Spanish, it's a beautiful accent. I think this actually goes after one of your poems, or after Vallejo, I think, right? It has so it's called Found. I found a man who recited a poem from an unfinished book of poems, his best poem. And I saw that while he recited it, he composed it. And his words were written in my brain, and they came out of my mouth and all of my gestures. And my voice echoed in that little lonely world where only my own body lay, my lone mind and my poem, that talked about a man who found another, that was himself reciting from an unfinished book of poems, his best poem. Here, one more. This is the title poem, Aguas, meaning waters. There's a lot of water in both, in many of the poems that we have here. Let's hear Miguel read Aguas.
Comparto el poema Aguas. Agua en la mañana alquitranada, o en la noche que cubre de cartones el amanecer. Agua en los tejados anidando. Agua en la explanada donde olvidaron sus agujeros negros las estrellas. Agua incesante, agua de a ratos. Agua en el reflejo que descubre el ojo en el espejo. Agua en la tinta de los versos que no se escribirán nunca. Agua rebasando el vaso frío y ahogado con una gota inestimable. Agua en el revuelto río de nuestra paz interior, donde jamás caminaremos, donde ni cenizas quedan. Agua acampando en torno al último fogón.
Waters. Water in the tar-dark morning or the night that covers the sunrise with boxes. Water nesting on rooftops. Water in the plaza where the stars forgot their black holes. Constant water, occasional water. Water in the reflection that discovers the eye in the mirror. Water in the ink of the verses that can never be written. Water overflowing the cold glass and drowned with a drop. Water in the troubled river of our inner peace, where we will never walk, where no ashes remain. Water settling around the last fire. Thank you.
As I mentioned, our Authors Corners program publicizes one author a month who was recently published from a small and medium-sized press. So we are super excited to have our November Authors Corner Spotlight read from his debut chapbook, Distant Sequence. Please welcome Luke Sutherland.
to the Interloop so much, not only for having me here tonight, but for featuring me as the November Authors Corner writer. I've been having a fantastic time this month doing all kinds of events. This is my third one in like about a week's time. So, like I said, my debut chapbook just came out. It's called Distance Sequence. It won the 2023 Outright Literary Chapbook Contest. Thank you. And it just came out through Neon Hemlock, another local press. In addition to being a writer in the area, I run my own press called Lilac Peril. We publish trans authors broadly defined, and we are working on our next anthology, so keep an eye out for that. I'm going to read probably 2 excerpts. We'll see how well I do. This is a little bit from an essay called Seattle Cycle. We're early for the DIY show, so we hole up in a bar next door. I get a gin and tonic way too strong for me, baby that I am, and we sit close enough to wear each other's skin. B douses tater tots and Tabasco. Near us, 2 people with black smeared across their eyes drink quietly. Butches hug each other by the door. Everyone in the city looks queer, and I'm not complaining. The show space starts to fill. It's all ages, and we're surrounded by young metalheads so stylish it hurts. There's amps stacked against a wall, a soup of cables snaking the floor. Wilfred is setting up, and it's the 2 of them from the bar with the heavy makeup, the bassist and the singer. A girl takes off her strappy boots and walks stocking-footed across the cement floor. The band, tuned and poised, starts to play. Sludgy distortion oozes over our heads. The band is tight. Propulsive drums, muscular bass, a screeching guitar. The bassist's eyes cut to the singer, the drummer, bright white against dark makeup. The crowd thrashes. I love how sound compels my body. I love watching B, their long braid whipping about. The singer growls, I would let you break all of my limbs. I would let you peel off my skin. It's a hell of a set, but I'm tired. I'm so fucking tired. So we don't stick around. Out front, another trans person tells me how much they like my patches and pins. I like you. I love every transsexual even when I don't. B and I start to climb the steep streets back to the rental, arms knotted together. A sticker on the back of a traffic line sign says, "Sissies rule," and I have to agree. Thank you. Okay, I'll read one more, and what I forgot to mention is that I have a box full of some copies of Distance Sequence, so it's $10. Come see me if you want. This one's called Breaker Breaker. B sleeps without their earrings in, and the holes close overnight. We had just picked out a new pair, 2 dangly twists of leather, hippie as hell, at a little boutique in Forks the day before. I love the swing of them, subtle against B's copper hair. We stand in the warm glow of the vanity lights. I inspect their lobe, the hole still visible, and work one end of a stud in. Their flesh resists. I hesitate, and they crack their knuckles, the sound echoing through the little cabin. B has a way of popping the smallest joints in their finger by gripping the end of each digit and twisting. They tried to twist mine for me, but my hands are reluctant. Still, we find other ways to share our bones. Like when I scoop my chest into upward dog and feel their hands press down on either side of my spine. Like when we admire each other's cracks, the snap of wrists, pop of knees and ankles, saying, "Good one, God, that one sounded good." The earring back slips. It chimes against the sink, and I squat to fish it from the pilly bathroom mat. At their ear again, I ease it in. A bead of fluid purls as I break skin. Human blood is vegan in a way if everyone involved is into it, but the rule is no cannibalism in the bedroom. Maybe if we were stranded, maybe if one of us died, he said. Maybe. As long as it was for survival and it didn't turn you on. I told them both could be true. What then? Would they drink me if I said yes? Would they deglove flesh with devotion, wear my carpals as earrings, swing their head so when the mountain snow caught the sun, it would reflect off bleached bone too? He admits that they can't stand sharp things near their face. They haven't cut their hair in nearly a decade. In the bathroom, I pierce them anew. And they only flinch a little. We joke about what other wounds I might give them, what new sex could be had, if only we knew what to say. I would say yes, feast upon me, make me votive in oblivion, break me towards pleasure. Thank you.
Next in fiction, Sameem Siddiqui.
Thank you. This is my first time ever reading anything live. This is an excerpt from my story, Air Body, which was published in Clarkesworld in 2020. It won the Clarkesworld Reader's Choice Poll that year and was nominated for a Theodore Sturgeon Memorial Award. The premise of the story is there's basically this company, Air Body, which is what it sounds like. It's Airbnb, but for bodies. So the main character is a young man in the US who's watching from inside his own body as he's inhabited by an elderly Pakistani woman from Karachi. She's been cooking something, but he's not really sure what it is, so here's that scene. Mina clicks the depressurize button on the pressure cooker and watches as if she's hypnotized by the plume of steam hissing out of the metal cylinder. I feel my ears perk up as she hones in on the sound. It's as if she hasn't seen or heard this in ages. Don't cook much anymore, eh? I say, realizing I should probably contain my snark, but I don't think she minds. No, I cook almost every day. It's just that I'm a bit deaf, so I've forgotten how the steam speaks to you. If you pay attention to the hiss, you'll hear it tell you if the food is really ready, if it was cooked the way you intended, or if you'll be disappointed when the lid unlocks. And if you watch closely, you'll see how the steam interacts with the spirits in the air. If they gather towards the steam, you're cooking something delicious. If they flee, well, it's an old auntie secret. Really, I ask? You're one of the most gullible saps I've ever met, I'm sure, she says. I didn't believe you, I just couldn't tell if you really believed it yourself. All right, well, you let me know if you need anything. I'm gonna get some reading done. Really, there's some gaming I need to catch up, but she doesn't need to know that. The sensory suppression filters out most of Mina's kitchen noise until I hear the blender slicing through. I'm curious why she needs a blender to make dal, but not curious enough to hit pause. I'm pretty immersed in the game, and I feel an almost pungent, but ultimately bland taste on my tongue. Mina shoveled a bit of what she's done to this dal into my mouth. She massages the hot, dry, musty paste into a lump as she lets each part of my tongue feel and inspect the texture. As it crumbles into the back of my throat, an aftertaste surfaces that reminds me of wanting to be kissed amidst an audience of 80s era wood paneling on neglected basement walls. An aftertaste on my anxiety-dried adolescent tongue, which had just uttered, "I'd kiss you, Eid Mubarak, if you let me." A line tacky enough to hold the confidence facade of my smile in place, while I waited inside my head screaming, "What in the fuck are you thinking?" I can almost hear Hafsa's laugh seeping in through my tongue, and almost feel the slap that ended in an apologetic caress. My taste buds reverberate like the hair on the back of my neck when Hafsa kissed the highest point of my cheekbone, and then stared at me. I'd never seen anyone else's eyes so close. It was so overwhelming I had to close my own eyes. I'm not sure if she had started or me, but after years of hiding, that was the first time my lips finally melted into another's. It would not be the last time I'd be rudely interrupted mid-kiss. Before the moment was over, Amni was shouting, "Arsalan beta," from the top of the stairs, "Let's go." Hafsa broke the kiss and leaned over to whisper, "Eid Mubarak, Arsalan," in my ear before I jumped up. stunned by what had happened. The next thing I'd say to Hafsa would be congratulations, 10 years later, on her heavily decorated wedding stage next to her heavily decorated new husband. Mina fills my mouth with water, washing my memory out. I ache for another taste of the musty paste. I want to go back for more, even though there's nothing to go back to. What was that? I asked. It tasted familiar. Well, Mr. Expert, you'll have to wait and see, she says. So I watch her set the pot on the stove above the lowest possible flame and pop in a few heaps of heat. As it melts and simmers unevenly in the pot, she picks up the blender and begins scooping out the paste. The warm ghee spatters on the backs of my hands as the first few clumps land in the pot. My arm will no doubt be sore the next day because for a while she just leans on the counter and stirs every few minutes, keeping the darkening paste on the bottom from sticking to the pot. Eventually she stops to add sugar, mixing it in evenly before flipping the paste over and pouring the rest of the sugar in. Once the white crystals disappear into the paste, she scoops out a spoonful out and closes my eyes as a warm, sugary sensation hits my lips. I'm flooded with images of Tupperware decorated by cold and soggy deep-fried finger foods and heavily sweetened desserts. But it's all damned by the memory of Carla's voice asking the question, why can't you just bring me home for Eve like a normal person? Ummy's just not well, I had said, opening one dish and lifting it up. What dish was it? She's well enough to have cooked all this, Carla had said, gesturing to the to-go holiday foods. I plunged a spoon into the Tupperware and scooped out something and shoved it toward Carla's mouth. Just try a bite, I said. Carla rolled her eyes and opened her mouth. Then, when the taste soaked into her tongue, she opened her eyes wide. Her eyes rolled again, but with pleasure this time. What the fuck is this? Chemne ke dal ke halwa, I say into the air-body UI. Very good, Mina stabs with her standard tone of condescension. She pours another can of condensed milk in and continues stirring. Gustatory memory. What? Taste. It's got a peculiar way of triggering memory and emotion, don't you think? More so than other senses, taste links us directly to our gut, where our deepest unfulfilled needs keep us hungry. Your gut tricks your mind into thinking you're getting what you really want, but it's really just using you to get the... She scoops up another bite, and I feel my eyes roll back into my head. The sweet halwa.
Next in poetry, Sam Liming.
All right. So nice to be back. All right, I have 3 poems tonight. Unintentionally, they all sort of hold together around the notion of like being perceived. Also, I promise I didn't plan this, but the rain was a lovely introduction because my first poem is titled, "We're Having a Glass of Wine, Outside It's Raining." Your words pile up and widen the space between us. You're slick, you're slippery, you're so yourself, I've lost all sense of how to place you in relation to me. While watching you talk, I tilt my head in hopes of catching some meaning, like the cup the ball falls into at the fair. It makes me look like I'm listening, and you go on, and I don't mind. I can tell at some point you'll want me to talk, but I'm losing my language tonight. It's something in the air. I'm sure things are going wrong elsewhere, too. I furrow my brow, and you take it as some proof I've some deep thought, so I'm flying straight into the deception now. Meanwhile, I try to press letters up against the soft plate of my mind, like small hands at a winter window. I will know the words when I see them emerge writhing, newborn, pudgy, and you're still piling up your polished phrases, faster now, excited, egged on by my head nodding, and it's true. I don't want you to stop. I can feel the egg coming from my face, but still I keep it up. Wish I could keep up with how quickly you think, so I'm pressing at the plate faster now, and it's cacophonous, like a child at piano keys. A child that doesn't know piano at the piano, unable to string one meaning to the next with any intention. It is I've lost level. I'm banking away from the words, but you've reached the place where I'm to interject and I'm winging it. But so then he thinks time bends, and this is enough for you to let me return to my loose-limbed enjoyment of your voice, swirling my white around the bowl of my glass. For a moment, nothing pressed against my mind but your face. This next one is an acrostic poem. Yes. The South Ledges Apple Door, after Child Hassan's painting of the same name. She is very nearly lost in the landscape. The sea, the rock painted with dashes of purple, the cousin of her sash, the ribbon on her hat. It is always like that when we're just sweeping past, isn't it? From her figure, her back, my eye draws up and finally the edge of the frame holds a slip of sky. One white touch, a far off slip she isn't waiting for. No, just a reminder she isn't alone, can't really be alone. She is seen and she sees. Is it a prayer? Her sash a purple gash. She holds down the edge of her hat like a screen. And then the last one is titled Vanderwalls. I go to the park and sit under the sun. Everyone else is in pairs, pealing like bells. As I'm drawing more and more into myself, I've noticed the ease it seems people gather, hold hands. I don't know anymore what the story is that could save me, what to repeat as payment. Behind me up the hill, men are talking about their dogs, how one has named his oyster. And that's the problem. I'm tired of studying myself in small facts. I want to peel myself and let you at me, let you debone me, let it feel like some real mess we're enjoying making. I imagine I look like a grape, that I could be clear or nearly clear. The bees are in the grass like a search party, like planes low over a lake. There is a space somewhere inside me, some cavity, like when a stone is wrenched free. If they're looking for flowers, they'll go hungry. Thank you.
Next in fiction, Joanna Theiss. Did I say it right? Theiss? Theiss.
It doesn't want to be pronounced correctly. It's not my fault. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to read a short flash fiction called Now We Are Things, which was published at Fictive Dream. You'll turn into a pumpkin. When the bad one, the curfew breaker, changes over, the other girls assume it's their fault. Because yes, they do say it, but they don't mean anything by it. It's a throwaway warning from fairy tales. It's not a prophecy. Their laughter is like pebble ice tossed across her legs, which she has slung out the open window. When she disappears from view, the other girls hear an inhuman thud on the grass below. She is no longer a girl, but an autumn board, and she is rolling down the slope, her body bulbous and ridged, her skin leathery orange. That same night, under fluorescent lights, a mother balances cardboard boxes in arms that are always full. She's been cramming boxes into this storage unit for weeks. Boxes of tuneless toy instruments, flapless lift with flat books, a plastic swan with a cracked, dangling neck. Her children's art, paper tie-lined with watercolor, pipe cleaners corked into men. That night in this woman's storage unit, she labels every box with a magic marker's permanence until she is nothing but a cardboard box ready to be filled. The next day, 10 little girls stand center stage in the basement of a suburban church. Because they are playing angels, they wear white dresses, white fishnet wings strapped to their backs, white elastic bands digging into their armpits. The pastor and the parents are admiring them as their divine sopranos lift from babyish throats until their last words leave them with a pedally pop, pop, pop. The adults rise, then lean forward and clasp their hands over their mouths. On the stage where 10 little girls had sung are now 10 orchids in grocery store pots. Orchids with white teardrop petals and inner lips the damning pink of new blood. After the pumpkin, the cardboard box, and the angel orchids, the bossiest girl in English class becomes a blue jay. We're shocked to see this alchemy happen not through rumor nor gossip, but in front of us, yet we do as we are told. We shout, fling pencils, and when she drones at us from the ceiling, we wield our notebooks like shields and use them to cause an updraft that blows her out the window. Still, she interrupts our lesson by awling her heavy black beak against the closed window, her calls hoarse and warning. Next, my stepmother becomes a yolk yellow balloon, her change arriving as my brother and I sit down at the kitchen table to eat her scrambled eggs. We watch the skin of her face grow helio shiny, then shrink, then inflate when she bellows. My brother tugs on her ribbon, stunned and happy. This is freaking awesome, man. About freaking time. While I stare mutely at my plate, my stomach leaded glass. On the school grounds, the blue jay has knocked herself unconscious and lies lifeless on a hedge. This is lucky for our English teacher, who has become a sunflower seed. A blade waits for us in trigonometry, and when we stagger away from it, the assistant principal spots us. She is shouting about our disobedience when she too clatters to the floor. All the boys rush at her, but a junior is victorious, waving a golden token above his head before stuffing her in his pocket. He figures there's gotta be an arcade somewhere that will take her. Because school is nothing more than a scattering of junk and hordes of roaming, mocking boys, Lucy and I walk home early. Lucy confides that she wants to become a cell phone so that they'll cherish her instead of letting her winkle away in the dark like the orchid girls or shrivel up like my stepmom did once she lost her air, her dome contracting and hardening like the rind of an overripe lemon. I don't think we have a choice, I say. Across the street, a spotted cow, grossly huge and misplaced in our neighborhood, lows complaints and bangs her skull against a front door which was closed against her. When Lucy doesn't say anything about this spectacle, I turn and find not my best friend, but an ivory pillar candle, as yet unburnt. Among all the out-of-place objects, the mirror only matters because he's in it. He'd been running with his boys when a candle rolled drunkenly across the cracked sidewalk and almost tripped him. When he stopped to crush it beneath his sneaker, the mirror, angled on the curb, reflected himself, his leg poised mid-thud. His friends are far away now, galloping giddy in this womanless world that teems with unexpected gifts, but he stills, stoops, and picks up the mirror. There's the blue sky behind him, the sweat tippling his temples, his hearty grin, but there's something else, too. There's wrath silvering from the mirror's surface, a glimmering of revenge, radioactive as radium, that mars his image. Irritated, the boy tosses the thing to the ground. He doesn't wait to see if it shatters. Thank you.
Hey, next in poetry, Dylan Tran.
Hello, hello. I'm Dylan. Thank you for the interlude for having me here today. I've always been a big fan. So this is exciting for me. I have a few poems here for everybody tonight. The first poem is titled Apologies. I don't know how to say sorry in Cantonese because my father never showed me how. I imagine his body folding flat against the earth, his head raised slightly, the contours of his mouth twist and jam-flecked, forming words I've never heard before. The film of his chaplets threatening to tear, uttering sounds too quiet for me to hear. I wonder if I move him closer, place my ear against the stubble on his cheek, will my cartilage be pierced or burned in stone? Will I understand the years beneath his skin? When I am this age, will the lines along his face connect with mine? Will I learn his language? I look my father in the eyes and pause. I ask him to show me. help do my taxes. A little louder? Okay. Sorry. The next poem is titled Dim Sum. When we go out to eat, it must be dim sum. No family is complete without dim sum. My cousins, my aunts and uncles, my grandparents, my mom, my dad, and me gather for dim sum. Everyone already knows my favorite dishes. Someone says yum cha is short for dim sum. You can use them interchangeably, though yum cha means to drink tea, whereas dim sum means a dollop of heart, as if each small plate is filled with love. We share every dish at dim sum. Someone passes me a plate of hacha, and then another, like there's no end to dim sum. Submerging each roll in soy sauce, I accept their love to return the next time we have dim sum. The years pass in silence. The table shortens. Now it's just my mom, my dad, and me at dim sum. Despite my peanut allergy and my mom, who's a vegetarian, my dad at dim sum orders a plate of chicken feet before anything else. His mother's favorite dim sum. He eats them in her memory, counting each bone before he continues with dim sum. Can dim sum also mean to touch the heart? Whose favorite dishes can I name at dim sum? My mom picks at her bok choy and green beans. Her favorite dish is to watch us eat at dim sum. After the chicken feet, my dad finishes a plate of pig intestines. Is this his dim sum? What dishes will be left behind for me? When you're alone, you can't go out with dim sum. They won't give you a lazy Susan. You won't be able to order enough to call it dim sum. But being alone, Billy, has never stopped you from doing anything, much less dim sum. And the last poem that I have for tonight is titled Looking at My Venmo feed and Getting FOMO. I mean, I really didn't want to, need to explain, so I won't. I was going to, I didn't hear a lot of laughter. Well, looking at my Venmo feed and getting FOMO. The world folds again, but I am living on its edges, where the silence is so deep, nothing can distract it from ringing in my ears. They say you cannot fold a piece of paper more than 7 times. Curious, I do not try. I'm merely dust along a paper cut. Let me mix into your bloodstream 3 cycles of reincarnation. Let me hold you from across the borders of our imagination. Like the way I don't recognize the names of my friends' new friends. Like the turn of the final page of a mystery that has no end. I close my eyes and I am here. I open my eyes and the world is folded for the 8th time. Thank you.
Okay, let's have a round of applause. Oh, it's such a tiny little word. I missed it. Rachel, I lost my program. Next in fiction is Rachel Ament. That was that mommy 6 cents. I was like, why is she yelling at her? All right, now let's have a round of applause for our lady. all so much for coming tonight. Our next reading is January 14th. Have an amazing holiday season. Apply to our Authors Corner program. Apply for the next writing retreat in April.
Yeah, and just again, it's been an incredible 10 years. We're really excited to see where the Interloop goes in this next decade, hopefully. But for all of your support and being here and being part of it and being why we do what we do, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for being here.